Our next set of speakers would throw some pertinent light on crisis management, a public administration perspective. So firstly, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Sanjeev Chopra, former director, Lal Bahadur Shastri, National Academy of Administration, Missouri. Mr. Chopra.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kalita, the Honorable Vice Chair of the Rajya Sabha, Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed very difficult to speak after such a galaxy of distinguished individuals. The conveners set the stage for what we are going to discuss, and I'd like to congratulate all the three conveners, Chanchal, Wilfried, and Elizabeth. Great job you've done. We've heard from the Central University of Haryana. We've heard the perspective of the Vice Chancellor and the Pro-Vice Chancellor. We've heard from the Hanns-Seidel Foundation. Thank you for supporting this conference. We've heard from the Federation of Federations. And now it's the job of, civil servants, two of us, me and Mahesh, to get things in perspective, because people often tend to forget that civil services also have a little role in ensuring that the system runs. Because if the system runs well, those who run the system are forgotten. So sometimes crisis is important, just to remind everyone that, there are people who, tug the coal and get the things together. But on a more serious note, there are some issues that have come up, and in the next 5 or 6 minutes, I'd like to address some issues before you. I think one of the seminal texts which defines Indian polity, which defines Indian history, and which is at the root of how nations and how the globe should be shaped, is Hind Swaraj by Mahatma Gandhi. Written in 1909, this is the text which explains how societies ought to govern themselves. In fact, he goes on to say this is how societies used to govern themselves, but over a period of time, globalization changed the way in which societies looked at itself. I think, although we have moved a long way from 1909, yet I think Hind Swaraj continues to be a very seminal text to understand how societies have to regulate each other and how different levels of society have to interact with each other. How the village will interact with the formation above the village, and how that formation will interact with the state or the province or the linguistic province, how the linguistic provinces will interact with the larger nation, in the case of India, the larger vision that we have India, and that's true for all multinational states, and how these multinational states would also come to global forums, because all of them are important. You cannot run the world without the WHO. You cannot organize Olympics without the International Olympics Association. You need the UN, you need the G20, you need everything. And you also need nation states. And you also need provinces. And you also need districts. You also need sub-district administrations. So how all of these come together, how all of these work together, this is what federalism is about in its deeper philosophical sense. In the deeper philosophical sense, I think federalism is about understanding that there are layers and layers and layers, and all of us have to be responsible. I liked a point which was said that shared responsibility and also the individual will, the competence to perform, and understanding the system in which we have to perform, these are a very, very important aspects, and I'm very glad that all this has been brought about in this conference that we'll be discussing over the next 4 days. Of course, this is a subject that can go on and on. The other point which I wanted to bring with you is how we have contributed to the larger federal running of this country. Way back in the year of the Lord 1946, Sardar Patel had a conference with the 11 premiers of the then British provinces, how the whole discussion took place on whether we should continue with the IAS or not, or a thing, and it was decided that yes, we must do it. And now I'll give you a practical example of how this gets resolved. We've heard of the Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana, which is the national scheme for organizing insurance for every farmer. Now this is a thing on which there was a large bipartisan consensus that we must move from issue-to-issue based insurance, from a crop-to-crop insurance to a nationally organized crop insurance which is based on weather, which will be based on radar systems, which will be based on a more objective platform. But having said that, everybody wanted to take credit for it. The PM naturally wanted to take credit for it. But in the state that I come from, West Bengal, our CM, Mamata Banerjee, also wanted to take credit for it. So without management of this interplay, and it was becoming. I mean, I felt that here is a wonderful scheme. Why should this not be implemented for all the farmers of Bengal? But there was a political tussle. So the job of the IAS was to ensure that we were able to communicate to the Chief Minister that, look, it may be the Prime Minister's program, but in Bengal, you can call it the Bangla Fasal Bima Yojana. So, by a little play of words, by the understanding, because the advantages of being in services like the IAS and the IPS and the forest services, that we understand how the mind of the union government works, and we also understand how the state governments work, and we also understand how district administrations work. Because at the end of the day, Fasal Bima Yojana or the National Insurance Program can be conceptualized by the center, can be funded by the center and the states, but the actual implementation will have to be done at the block level, with the local Krishak Sabha, with the local farmers getting involved. So all this is what what a system can do. And I think there's a lot to learn. There's a lot that we have to learn from each other. I liked one more statement, I forget who made it. We have to learn from the worst practices also, because there are best practices on which books and books and books have been written. But I think it's high time that we also wrote something on worst practices, because all of us have to learn. And pandemic showed us that every state had done some innovation or the other, which could be easily replicated. In fact, in Bengal, this was one thing which the Chief Minister of Bengal did. He said that, look, it will be the job of the BDO to feed anyone who does not have a job or who's migrating, and she fixed the scale. Now, this was immediately picked up by many others. At the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration, we set up a little group which was documenting what every district was doing on Corona, what can be done. And it became, and today, fortunately, because of the web platforms, with the internet, all this could be done very easily, very nicely, and very effectively. So I think this conference is a very, very important conference, because not only in the area of health, but in several other areas, at the end of the day, action lies on the ground. Policies can be made elsewhere. Funding has to be organized. All these things have to be done in the spirit, if you ask me, in the spirit of Hind Swaraj, where every individual counts, and where the individual on the ground is as powerful, as important, as immersive, and as much a part of the larger system as the topmost functionary in the federal system. Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra, for giving us a perspective of a civil servant on the subject, which was nothing less than a reality check. Your example of farmers insurance scheme actually reminded me of another example that I have been strongly feeling. The skill development project that central government and state governments have been taking ahead without any coordination with each other, and so to abandon each other.
Chanchal